Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Today's going to be more of a simple kind of video, more of a maintenance thing. I gotta change the oil in my TRX4 shocks, and I also need to replace the motor. Yesterday when I was out running it, motor is it's like whirring. Anyways, I digress. So I'll just go ahead, roll some footage here. We'll get the shocks taken care of, and then might do some driving. But the main thing right here is just to kind of get into, I need to oil my shocks. How do I do it? Best way to kind of bleed them, you know, just how to. So let's go ahead and do it, and yeah. Just working on my B7 here. Got the pink, well, kind of purple motor and wire combination going on. So I just finished soldering on the positive and negative connectors, or bullets. But yeah, no, I'm planning on probably making some content with this. So my super organized workstation here. It's organized madness. Alright, so here it is in all its glory. Definitely, I don't know, seen better days. It's been torn apart and everything. Good time to look it over. Gotta tighten up the bumper there. Probably gotta put like Loctite on those screws. Anything that goes into aluminum, definitely Loctite them, because they will come loose over time. Shocks I have, I actually don't remember what exactly. I don't know if they're Endura shocks, but anyways, they're still oil filled. They're nothing too crazy, but you just take them off by the top screw there on the top, and then just take note of what hole, and it's on the farthest back hole, at least for the Bronco body, depending on what body style you have. I think that will vary. And then just remove this screw here, and you can pop off this shock. You can also run spacers in between the shock collar or the shock body, because it's kind of hard to show on camera. Here you go. So you can see it'll slide loosely here. So if you have any kind of spacers or anything, you could probably 3D print some like thick washers, or you can probably find something and put some spacers so that doesn't move as much. But for crawlers, it doesn't really hurt to have some of the extra like ability to kind of shift in abnormal ways, because it's not like a racing buggy or anything like that. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna remove this, because I should have recorded it. I gotta try and find the footage I do have, but I had basically this whole thing was submerged underwater. It was deeper than I thought it was gonna be. It was kind of funny. So I want to take off this cap here and see if there's any water that got in, and if so, just remove it.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Stella, come on. It's cold. Oh my goodness.
Alright, so first things first, we're gonna go ahead and tear it apart. Just take the shocks off, and I'm gonna go ahead and I might take off the wheels, just depending, because I have a hole through here, through the rim, that I might be able to get to it. If not, I'll just take off the wheel. Here we go. This is a lot a lot better. So got some wear on it. Well, that's not too bad though. Just want to make sure that your shocks are not bent and they still move freely. I forget what size the stock shocks are compared to these ones. I'll have to get my gauge out and see how long these ones are. Yeah, so 110 millimeters. This is 109. Yeah, it's fully extended. So, but I think they're sold as 110. So, and your fronts and rears are going to be the same on the TRX4. You don't need to keep track of which one's which. You also have to keep in mind the links as the screw that holds on the bottom shock does hold onto the links, but it's not too challenging to overcome. And then that's gonna go ahead and get started on the other ones here. And while I do that, or while I'm taking apart the rest, I'm gonna go ahead and fill these up with oil, so then we can wait for the air bubbles to get out. Alright, so you'll see in a minute here what I mean by getting all the air bubbles out and letting them out. These are a great tool to have. It's for holding on to shock bodies, and that way it's of a soft aluminum, so that way you're not going to be scratching up your shock shafts when you're doing work on them. So I recommend picking up one of these. This is a team associated one, but I'm sure on Amazon you can find a cheaper one. And you can also press in ball studs with the tool here, and that way you don't tear up your thumbs like I do all the time trying to pop these in or out, or like on tie rods and whatnot. If you can fit this there, it saves you a lot of pain. Can't really see, but there's not much to see because there's like hardly any oil. Whoop, come on, focus. No oil on that, hardly anything. Let's see what color it is. Oh, nice. Oh, that's to be expected. Oh man. If I was really being particular, I would probably just rebuild the shocks or just order new shocks or flush out the shocks, but I don't feel like wasting too much fluid. And so what I'm just gonna do is, you know, have them drain as best I can and then just fill them up. I'm gonna fill them up with 40 weight oil. From the factory they use 30 weight. But since I've added a decent amount of weight to this vehicle, I want to try and have some more of that cushion. So we'll see how it fares with 40 weight oil. But first thing, I just want to see, do these shocks really feel a lot better having fresh oil in them? Alright, and very quick, this is future me saying before you put oil in your shocks, it's a good time to undo this cap, and you'll have O-rings in there and you'll want to lubricate them. So I'm actually going to go ahead and pour out the new oil that I put in here because I want to make sure I lubricate the inside here. So I wanted to put that in before you watch the video and then you have to dump out the oil that you have. So no, yeah, don't make the little mistake I did. Not a big deal, especially if they're newer shocks, but these ones have been through a lot, so I'm gonna make sure I do that. So you don't necessarily need to take off the very bottom, but if you want to break it down the best you can pop out the piston and then just keep the order of how the spacers and the O-rings are placed. So I'm just gonna pour a little bit of the new shock fluid on the components. You also want to lubricate lightly the shock shaft so then it can slide smoothly in between the O-rings. Use some Loctite on the threads. Alright, so now you want to make sure you fill up your shock shaft just about all the way to the top. Pump the piston up and down. Get those air bubbles out. I filled mine up a little bit too much. But there we go. Now you'll top it off with the rest of your fluid after the air bubbles are done. And then you'll put the cap on and I'll show you what to do next. Alrighty, so now you got the shock that was sitting there for a while. Don't see any air bubbles, so I'm going to top it off the rest of the way. And then you want to get the top of your bleeder screw. And you might have a screw that you'll unscrew on the side, or you might have a cutout in the threads, or you might have some kind of bladder style where there's like a ball looking thing in the top cap. But in this case I don't really have either. I think these are just some really cheap shocks. So whoops. So I'm gonna see how good I can kind of get it, but I'll show you what to do. So you want to start screwing it on, but leave it loose, and then you want to compress that shock shaft. I tightened it up too much, so you barely want to do it, and then you want to compress the shock shaft down. And then you'll give it a few seconds for the fluid to come out. Keep it compressed. You see all that extra fluid, and then you'll just screw it down the rest of the way from there. And then you don't want the shock shaft to be pushing back as much as that, but these shocks, I think I'm kind of just limited by how I can bleed them. But if it's pushing back and it's wanting to rebel and not sink all the way to the bottom, when you let go, it should come and actually repel a little bit against itself. So I'm going to take out a little bit more fluid. See, so now I can compress it and it'll come back out a little bit, but it's not nearly wanting to come back as much. So I had to take out a little bit of fluid and then I had to add a little bit more to get that. But you should notice your shocks should be a lot more silky. These are so much better right now than what they were before. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish up the rest of these, taking apart everything. I'll just time lapse it and we'll just go from there after we get from this step to just putting them back together. Yeah guys, check this out. I like this. So it has like a nice soft kind of rebound to it. Front, it's just springy because it's just that shock coil is just like mud and mud and water at this point. So yeah. Yeah, I think a thicker oil is definitely needed. Right, so my battery died, but I ended up just finishing the job. Everything except for the motor. Motors, I mean, that could be like its own separate little video. But for the most part, take it out and put it back the same way, you'll be fine. Then there's other people, obviously, that have done lots of, comprehensive guides on how to do that. But this was just more of a quick maintenance thing. You can see the front, it's not as springy. I mean, it returns okay. The front shocks are a little bit rough. I don't know, they didn't look bent, but I don't know, we'll see. Alright, so I thank you guys for watching. If you want to see some more content on some RC stuff, I plan on doing that. I plan on doing maybe some things with my associated B7, and I'm just running 17.5 motor right now, so I might do something relating to that. And then there's still like some photography stuff, because some of you guys have seen me do some like reviews of some of the photography gear that I use and what I like. So let me know what you guys want to see down below, and I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, good rest of your week, good rest of your month. See you next time.